Out of every character in the game, Elly might be the most extreme mixed bag there is. She's obviously the best gear in the game while you have her. Arrowed simply one-shots most of the bosses she's available for. That's kind of an extreme upside, especially considering that Virge is one of the fastest gears in the game on top of that. By contrast, Elly is one of the most mediocre characters when on foot. She's one of the slowest party members in the game, has some of the worst physical attack in the game, and has some of the worst physical defense in the game. And even compared to the other ether options you have available, she's generally the worst between Maria and Emeralda. This makes Elly an interesting character because she's the only character in the game with this really well-defined divide that points out what makes her great and what makes her bad. The obvious thing most people would do when trying to buff Elly would probably be buffing her agility. At a glance, you might not think that's necessary considering Elly's the first party member to get multi-target spells, so even though she doesn't hit people as often, she can hit more people in that one turn. The problem is, by the time that starts being a real upside for Elly to start exploiting, if you're going to wait that long, why not just use Maria? You wait slightly longer for almost quadruple the damage, and it's more consistent than Elly, because Maria doesn't have a chance of missing, and it's non-elemental. This isn't even taking into account that, especially after buffs to Choo Choo, that's another mage that can multi-target, that's just as fast more or less, but she comes with the upside of healing, which Elly doesn't. This puts Elly at the median speed along with Billy, which is pretty fitting considering Emeralda is the fastest character in the game, and Maria is the slowest character in the game. But the big busts for Elly on foot come from her spells. For starters, she gets her tier 3 spells a lot sooner. They really do take too long to get, considering they're your only way of hitting every single person with Elly. Her hit and ether stats have also been buffed, as she did feel like she lagged behind a little bit. And while normally death blows would be covered in one video along with every other character's death blow changes, Elly is notable in the fact that her elemental death blows do actually use her ether stat now, which was a bit of a problem with Elly because investing in death blows tended to not be that good of an idea when they were using a stat she wasn't particularly proficient with. But the biggest change is to Elly's unique gimmick. Much like Charla's talent gauge in Xenoblade 1, Elly's ability to misfire spells exclusively hurts her, and she does not need to have a downside like this when she wasn't even that powerful to begin with. This mechanic also contradicts the fact that the story itself is always going over how Elly has this latent potential that's extremely powerful. To address this, instead of her spells having a chance to miss, they now have a chance to crit. Obviously the percentages have been tweaked so you don't constantly crit, especially in the early game, but this should both make her more helpful as a party member and more appealing to use as one. The only nerf Elly is getting is obviously to arrows. It's easily the best spell in the game. The biggest change is to its fuel cost being doubled. Seeing as it's a full AoE attack, it really is insane that it only costs just as much as Jessie Cannon to hit 5 people all at once. Combined with ether defense being a much more prevalent stat in enemies, Arrows is a lot less dominant of an ability, but it is still incredibly useful. Elly has gotten one of the most ambitious overhauls of the cast. Outside of the nerf to Arrows, everything that makes Elly stand out as a character has been dramatically improved, and her biggest weakness being her chance to miss, it's been changed to one of her best upsides now. Hopefully this helps Elly stand out as a party member instead of blending into the background like she usually does in Xenogears.